When we open the Bible, it's easy to just see it as a collection of stories, some laws, and teachings, right? But Scripture is so much more than just information. It's revelation. God doesn't just speak through the obvious stuff, but also through what's quietly woven right beneath the surface.
So what is woven beneath the surface? Well, that's what we're going to dive into today. We're going to look at 7 incredible messages hidden right there in plain sight. And listen, these aren't some kind of secret codes meant to confuse us. Not at all. They're profound spiritual truths designed to pull us closer to the very heart of God.
So think of this as your personal invitation, an invitation to see, to look a little closer, and to see the Bible not just as some old historical document, but as a living, breathing text with messages just waiting to be discovered.
All right, let's start with a message specifically for you. We're going to kick things off with 3 messages that speak directly to us, talking about our identity and our purpose. These are the kinds of truths that really ground us in who we are and, why we're even here.
So let's get into our very first one.
Okay, and it's this, the message of redemption. And what's so wild is that it was written right from the very beginning. I mean, think about it. Even in the first few pages of Genesis, long before we could even fully wrap our heads around sin, God is already pointing toward restoration. He's already revealing His grace.
And that tells us something just incredibly powerful. God's mercy wasn't some plan B. It's not a reaction to our failures. It's a core part of who He is. His mercy was already prepared for you, long before you ever thought you'd need it.
All right, on to number 2.
Now, building on that idea of proactive love, we get to our second message, the message of intentional creation. Scripture constantly reminds us of this incredible duality of who we are. On one hand, we're formed from dust, and on the other, we're filled with the very breath of God. And that's not just some pretty poetry. That's a profound statement about our identity. And this contrast is just so important to grasp. Look at this. We are humble and fragile, right? Formed from the dust. But at the exact same time, we're holy and valued because we're filled with God's breath. So what does that mean for you? It means your fragility doesn't cancel out your value. Not at all. In fact, it's part of the design. Every single life carries purpose because every life carries God's intention.
Okay, let's look at the third one.
And this idea of intentionality brings us to our third message, which is a tough one, but so important. It's the message that suffering is never meaningless. If you look throughout the entire Bible, you start to see this pattern. God often speaks most clearly right in the middle of pain that seems totally unfair. The prophets suffered, the psalmist cried out, even Christ was wounded. But here's the key. In Scripture, suffering is never, ever wasted. It becomes the very soil where redemption starts to grow.
So the takeaway here is absolutely crucial. If you are hurting today, if you're in that season of pain, God is not absent. He has not left you. He is there, working quietly, faithfully, right inside your circumstances, turning what feels like chaos into something with deep meaning.
Okay, so let's shift gears a little bit. We've been looking at messages that are really about us. Now let's zoom out and look at a couple of incredible messages that are all about God, specifically His unwavering character and His promise and sovereignty.
So here's number 4.
And this one is huge. It's the message that God keeps His word. You see, biblical prophecy reminds us again and again that history isn't just a bunch of random, chaotic accidents. Not even close. God speaks with total precision because He sees the end from the beginning. He's in control of the entire story.
And honestly, that's what should give us so much confidence, especially when the future feels completely up in the air. What He promises, He will fulfill. Now the timing, that might not be our timing. And the way He does it might totally surprise us. But the promise itself, that is rock solid.
And that leads us right into number 5.
Our fifth hidden message is really all about getting a new perspective. It's the message that time belongs to God. From the story of Joshua's long day to the prophecies that took centuries to unfold, Scripture is constantly reminding us that God isn't trapped by our clocks and calendars. He operates on a completely different level. He can pause a moment, stretch out a season, or fulfill a promise hundreds of years after it was first spoken.
And the takeaway for us is so important. If you feel like you're stuck in a holding pattern, if you feel delayed or maybe even overlooked, please hold on to this truth. Waiting does not mean forgotten. All right, for our final section, we're going to look forward. These last 2 messages really bring it all together. They combine a call to wisdom with an ultimate promise, giving us a powerful perspective for today and a solid hope for tomorrow.
All right, here we go with number 6.
And message number 6 is that true faith requires discernment. You see, the Bible calls us over and over again to wisdom, not to fear. All those numbers, symbols, and warnings you find, especially in the prophetic books, they're not there to scare you. They're meant to awaken you, to get you to think deeply, to pray humbly, and to stay anchored in what is true.
And that brings us to our final, culminating message, number 7.
This is the big one, the message that all of history is moving toward, restoration. The story of the Bible doesn't end in chaos or despair, not at all. It ends in renewal. God's entire plan from the first page to the last is heading toward a final, definitive moment of justice, resurrection, and new life.
And that, right there, is the ultimate promise. It's woven through every single page. Scripture never ignores the darkness in the world, but it declares, with absolute certainty, that hope gets the final word, always.
So, what do we do with all this? We've walked through these 7 messages. What's the big takeaway for your journey forward?
Well, the most important thing to remember is this. These messages are hidden, not to exclude us, but to invite us to go deeper. God doesn't hide things from us. He hides things for us. He loves to reward those who seek Him with patience, humility, and a faith that's willing to dig a little.
And you know, that's really what this channel is all about. We're here to explore Scripture with depth, to offer a space for calm reflection, and to help these timeless truths really speak into the middle of our everyday lives. If that's something that encourages you, we'd be honored if you'd subscribe and continue this journey with us.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I'll just leave you with this one question to think about. Now that you've seen these messages, where will you seek Him next? May the Word guide your steps and steady your heart.